Heat. Chapter 16. Unity. Second day of the 7th month, 702nd year. 2 years had drifted by, and the housing project was finally complete. On a clear and bright day, the white granite glowed like the edges of a cloud passing over the sun. Today was one of those days, and Eunyalus watched as light illuminated the houses. It was a beautiful day for his wedding, and to celebrate the end of the housing project. He reflected on the 2 years of work as he waited to leave for the wedding. A smile decorated his face as he remembered people's enthusiasm and teamwork. Then his brow creased, and he sighed. It hadn't taken long before people complained about Dragatu and the Honora. They had pushed the workforce too hard, and once more he, Dragatu, and Phenon had struggled to compromise. The work will be done as and when the people are able, Eunyalus remembered telling Dragatu. We are in no rush. It's more important to create unity than efficient and effective workers. It's just that the Honora and I are doing most of the hard work, Dragatu had said. We are simply motivating the people to work harder. But if you're not going to side with me, then I guess I have to accept it. You're always so ungrateful and idle sometimes. The outburst had taken them all by surprise. Sorry, I didn't mean that. I'll make sure the people aren't pushed. Are we done here? Eunyalus gave a quick nod, and Dragatu left. It took a few weeks for the tension to fade, but focusing on the benefits of the project helped. 6 months of good work went by, and the new skyline at the center of the nation was starting to take shape. Almost all the people were unified in helping. Yet the time they could give wasn't much. Life had to go on, crops and livestock had to be maintained, ore had to be mined, hunting had to continue, and trades had to be practiced. Eunyalus smiled again as he remembered what had been proposed in those first 6 months. The idea was for a large multi-purpose home, bigger than any other home or structure in the nation, to be built in the very center. The people's love and generosity had touched him. He currently stood at the window of his room in the castle-like building, still watching the granite glow in the sun as he pondered. It had been built for Phenon, Dragatu, and Eunyalus to live in, and conduct their meetings. A declaration had been sent out to see if the extra work would be accepted. The people had wanted to give something back, so agreed to this idea. The castle had a large library and a welcoming hall on the ground floor, meeting rooms for each of the brothers on the first floor, and living areas on the top floor. There were also spare rooms on each floor for storage. At the back of the library, there were 3 underground rooms for further storage. However, the last room was where Eunyalus was going to keep the Book of Prophecy once he was married and inherited it. The entrance to the underground rooms would always be locked, and Eunyalus and Tessia would have the keys. As a precautionary measure, one other entrance did exist. This was from their room on the 2nd floor, which descended to the 3rd and final room below the library, where the Book of Prophecy would be kept. The next year and a half had been spent building, and it had been hard work. Eunyalus tried not to dwell on this and thought about some special moments. He pictured the people caring for the animals, Tessia lifting people's spirits with love, Phenon showing incredible compassion when healing, and Dragatu's unbreakable commitment to working hard. Eunyalus knew he owed these people a lot, but he struggled to tell them how important they were to him. He hung his head, but quickly shook it off. Now wasn't the time to be sad. As he stepped away from the window, his long white hair caught the sun and glowed like the buildings. It was time to get ready. He washed and dressed in a fresh set of clothes and left his room. The sun still shone bright as Eunyalus exited the castle, and he glanced back to see the beautiful flowers that decorated the building for this special day. He had wanted to get married under the lone tree he liked, but Tessia had said it was better to get married at the castle. To become the heart of the nation was a symbol of their bright future. Eunyalus had agreed, but suggested they met at the tree and walked through the nation to the castle. He wanted people to share in the celebrations, and Tessia had loved the idea. The wedding procession and ceremony were beautiful, and thanks to Eunyalus' ability to talk to animals, a new coexistence, respect and love had begun, and there were almost as many animals gathered in the streets as there were people. The vows were read from the Book of Law and affirmed by the happy couple as they stood at the front of the castle. Once it was over, Ilana spoke to them both alone. She gave them the Book of Prophecy, and they promised to read and protect it. The married couple then took some belongings and set off to spend a few days in the forests. Those that could took time off their work and celebrated the completion of the housing project. They spent time walking around the nation to view the beautiful granite and brick houses during the day, and at night they had feasts, told stories, and sang songs. 10th day of the 7th month, 702nd year. Unitas and Tessia returned, and life continued as it always did. The people settled back into a routine of their own work, without much thought for anything else. It wasn't long before Dragatiu could finally plan a trip to the hills. He planned to take some of the yellow rocks with him, and finally practice turning them to metal. However, there was one thing he wanted to deal with first. He had noticed a lull in the effort people put into their work and helping each other. Watching this, he wondered why the people had become lax. He formulated a few plans that might motivate them to work hard, as they had during the housing project. 12th day of the 7th month, 702nd year. The heat in the blacksmith's forge was intense, but Dragatiu didn't mind. Having used his fire gift whenever he could, he had grown accustomed to such temperatures. What do you think, Honorius? What do you think, Honrus? He said, explaining a plan to divide up the Honora, send them to watch over different parts of the nation, and help motivate the people to work harder and look out for one another. I like it. People need to be encouraged and not to be allowed to settle into a sluggish and idle lifestyle. Honrus paused. You do know that the people may object to this. Dragatiu sighed. I know, he said. It will be okay as long as we make sure people understand the Honora are there to help them. What did your brothers say? I haven't told them, Dragatiu said casually. I know it sounds bad, but I don't intend to. I shouldn't have to run to them with every decision. I see, Honrus said, and rubbed his face. Will you help tell the Honora what I've told you? Dragatiu asked. And tell them to meet me tomorrow so we can get this underway. Of course. Tell them to meet me outside the castle at the 3rd hour past high sun, Dragatiu said, and left, feeling the cooler air on his face as he did. 19th day of the 7th month, 702nd year. The tension in the castle meeting room was like a solid entity that had been growing and pushing against the brothers as the argument progressed. It was reaching a climax, ready to break or break them. Many of the differences that had been apparent over the years were frustrating Dragatiu, and his patience was spent. As Unitas spoke, he knew he couldn't hold his tongue much longer. Dragatiu, what you have done is wrong, Unitas said, a rare tone of anger in his voice. It is not in line with our responsibilities. We are to give people as much freedom as we can. You did not bring this idea to the meeting, but instead you went ahead without any discussion. This shows you knew what we would say it was wrong. I didn't tell you because you are too relaxed, Dragatiu protested, leaning forward, both hands pressing down on the table they sat at round. The house building and water project have shown us how hard they can work. With the right leadership, they would always work hard and have better lives. I took the initiative. They just need a little push. No matter how you justify this, it is still wrong, Unitas said flatly, also leaning forward, but cupping his hands together under the table. You need to stop the Honora. Some have been very strict on the poorer families, just because they are poor. Dragatiu's face dropped. The 3 scar lines creased as his face began to tighten with confusion and frustration. It was probably because they were being lazy and not taking the help offered, he blurted. You should not be forcing them to do anything, Unitas said as calmly as he could. A tone of command ebbed through. It's not forcing them, it's encouraging them. The people have told me the Honora forced them to work at the ore pits, Finon said timidly. That's an exaggeration, I'm sure, Dragatiu said dismissively, trying to calm himself as he noticed Finon's slight fear. I'll talk to the Honora and remind them they are there only to motivate them and offer support. No, Unitas shouted, raising from his chair. This must stop. After a moment of shock, Finon nodded his agreement. Dragatiu took a deep breath and placed his hands on the arms of his chair. His deep red eyes narrowed as he looked from one brother to the other. Shock had turned to annoyance, and annoyance to hate. He felt like he was going to explode. An awkward silence made the room feel empty. Unitas remained standing and looked to Dragatiu for a reply. A sudden crack broke the silence. Dragatu quickly let go of the arms of the chair, not realizing he'd been squeezing them so hard. The unexpected noise and shock of seeing the broken wood diffused some of his anger, and he put his arms on his lap and looked down apologetically. "Fine," he said. "If that's what you both want, then that's what will happen." Unitas nodded. "Thank you." He sat back in his chair, quickly changing the topic. Dragatu sat in silence for the rest of the meeting. He knew he should let this go. He didn't understand how they could reject such a good way to help motivate the people. When the meeting was over, he said a strained farewell and left. 20th day of the 7th month, 702nd year. "We have to stop helping the people," Dragatu began as he stood on the top step at the front of the castle, with the Honora gathered at the bottom. There were shouts of complaint and the shaking of heads, but Dragatu continued. "My brothers told me there have been complaints. They said some of you were too harsh on the poorer people. I know it must have been a misunderstanding. What we were trying to do was right. But we must stop. Is there nothing we can do to continue helping?" Honora shouted from the front of the crowd. "No, there is not, at least for now. I'll find a way, though, and tell you when I have a plan. For now, we must stop, but I will contact you soon. Thank you for your willingness to help." As the crowd dispersed, Dragatu signaled to Honrus, Rion, Linur, and a few other close friends. They followed him into the castle and up to his personal meeting room on the first floor. They discussed what could be done, but after half an hour nothing conclusive was decided, and Dragatu dismissed them. It was late into the night, and Dragatu continued to sit alone in his meeting room, deliberating what to do. Freta had eaten with him and gone to bed several hours earlier. After much thought, he realized the root of his struggles. The biggest problem was the contradiction in the promises he had made to his father. He couldn't achieve his potential as a leader if he kept trying to work with his brothers. I should be the only leader, he realized. As he sat in the dim light of the glowing fire, he hung his head. "I'm sorry, Father. I've tried so hard to do as you asked. It isn't working. The Creator told us to lead, and that's what I have to do. It's who I am. There needs to be a change so I can help the people the way they need." 21st day of the 7th month, 702nd year. The following morning he told Freta his plan. She listened intently as she brushed her sun-like yellow hair. When he finished, she shared her doubts. "This might create a bigger divide, Dragatu. Are you sure this is the only option? I have spent more hours than I care to say, being torn. In time, they will see that having one leader creates unity." "As long as you're sure," Freta said. "I'll always support you because I love you, but be patient with them. They don't know you like I do. They don't understand that you do all this because you care for them." "I have been patient, but it's time for action." Freta's mouth went thin and her eyebrows narrowed. Okay, Dragatu said with his hands held up apologetically. "I'll keep trying to be patient as well as acting." He gave her a cheeky smile and stepped close. "Your support means everything to me. Thank you for always understanding me." He then left to meet the Honora. They were delighted with his idea. The hard part would come the following day. His brothers weren't going to accept this easily, but he had a plan. 22nd day of the 7th month, 702nd year. "Yes, you heard me right," Dragatu said as Unitas and Phenon gaped at him, sitting back in their chairs. "I want a declaration sent asking the people if they would have me as their only leader." A few more moments of silence went by before Unitas broke it. "You want to lead by yourself?" "In a way, yes, but at the same time, no. You will help and offer advice, but I'll make the final choices. The three of us leading isn't working. It's too slow and creates too much division." Unitas saw the determination in Dragatu. In a pained tone, he repeated his question. "Is this really what you want?" "Yes." Unitas closed his eyes, hung his head, and took a deep breath. As he exhaled, he looked up and slowly glanced at Phenon. He could see the hurt scratched on his brother's face, but had to appease Dragatu. "Well, in that case, we must give the people a choice," Unitas replied, and looked down at the table. "If they vote against you, this must be the last of these propositions," he said, raising his head heavily to look at Dragatu. "If you don't get your way, you must accept that the three of us should work together." Unitas looked to Phenon to see if he agreed. Phenon nodded once, but said nothing. Dragatu thought for a second. "If I explain this well to the people, I won't lose." "Okay, I'll accept those terms." Dragatu pulled a scroll of parchment from his pack and slid it across the table. Unias and Phenon read the mock declaration, and with heavy hearts they discussed it. Once they agreed on the wording, Dragatu left and took it to be distributed throughout the nation. Excitement welled as he left the castle. The thought of leading without any constraints was liberating. 24th day of the 7th month, 702nd year. Dragatu's declaration brought people to the post as quickly as fanned flames moving on a dry grass field. Word whipped from one person to the next, and it was all anyone could talk about. They had a week to decide the outcome, and people debated passionately with one another. The Hanora and those close to Dragatu gathered a lot of support from the rich. They also tried to convince the poorer people and farmers to have Dragatu as their main leader, but with little success. Thankfully, those at the ore pits hadn't forgotten Dragatu's help over the years, and were fretted by his side, they were happy to back him. Unias took it on himself to gather some prominent thinkers, and they invented the voting system. Over the course of 2 days, each person would come to the castle, take some parchment, and write the outcome they wanted. They would put a 1 for Dragatu, or a 3 if they didn't want things to change. The final decision had to be a majority of 2/3. If the margin was too narrow, the vote would take place again the following week. If there was still no conclusion, it would take place a third time. If no decision could be made after 3 votes, the motion would be put on hold for a year. Then the vote would take place again, and follow this pattern until a conclusive decision was made. Phenon and Dragatu agreed to this. When a final decision was made, they vowed to accept it. First day of the 8th month, 702nd year. It was a tense first day of voting. The brothers had recruited a group of people from all backgrounds to oversee the counting. The votes were to be split into 2 rooms and kept in piles of 500. By the end of the first day, it looked like there was a bigger pile in favour of the 3 of them ruling. Dragatu noticed the seemingly bigger pile against him, and his confidence began to wane. It was late and dark, but he left the nation and went for a walk in the forests. Second day, the 8th month, 706th year. Dragatu returned at first light. As he entered his room in the castle, he saw Fressa laying on his bed, waking as he entered. She ran to him and hugged him tightly. "Where have you been?" "I needed to clear my head," Dragatu replied, walking heavily towards the bed. "I'm sorry I didn't tell you where I had gone. I'm worried I might not win after all." "You'll be fine," she said, smiling as he sat on the bed. "Whatever happens, you'll still be able to do good, but in a different way than maybe you prefer. Let's not think like that. You will be leader, Dragatu, and I'll always be by your side." "Thank you. I think I'll try and get some sleep," he said as he lay down. Greta joined him, and they both fell asleep. Third day of the 8th month, 702nd year. The votes were counted, and Dragatu struggled to control his anger. He stormed out and went straight to his room. "Dragatu, please listen," Fretta said as he paced, the fire almost visible in his eyes. He didn't reply. "You must stay calm. You vowed to accept this. I know it's not what we want, but there's nothing we can do." Dragatu stopped and looked at her. "I'm sorry," he whispered through gritted teeth. "I can't." He walked to a cupboard, opened it, took the journal, and left. He went to his old house and hid in the library. The aged Hialana interrupted, wanted to see what was wrong, but left him alone when she saw the anger he tried to hide from her. Journal entry, 3rd of the day of the 8th month, 702nd year. What am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to help the people if they won't let me? We should have never had the vote. Unias and Phenon should have let me be the leader. They have never trusted my choices. All I have ever done has been to help the people. Why can't they see this? The people do not accept the things I've done, and they do not appreciate it. They do not deserve me to be their leader. They will remain idle forever, never learning to help each other enough to make the Creator happy. I can't stand to be here anymore. They don't understand me, and what good I would have done. It's their fault I'm so angry. I wouldn't be this angry if they had made the right choice. I cannot stay here. They don't want me, and they will not have me. I have to fulfill my potential. I'll take those who want me as their leader, and we will leave. I know it will hurt the people a lot, but I must do this for myself, but most importantly, for those who want to live a better life. We will follow the Book of Law closely, and actively work to help one another. It's the only way I can help the people the way the Creator asked me to. I'll be able to achieve all my goals and not be held back, like with the yellow rocks. I'll finally be able to try and make the precious metal. 4th day, the 8th month, 702nd year. Dragatu woke at dawn in the chair he had occupied in the library. The new day had quenched his anger a little, but his desire for the change still burned bright. He went to the castle to speak to Freta and knocked on her door lightly. She opened it sleepily. Seeing him, the tiredness vanished, and she opened the door wide. He walked into the room and paced, flexing his hands as he decided what to do. Freta put her back against the closed door and saved him the trouble. We're leaving, aren't we? Dragatu stopped and stared. How do you know? She gave a half smile and then sobered. I saw your anger and disappointment. I know you, Dragatu. I could see that you had to follow this through to the end. She paused, pushed herself off the door, walked to him, took his hand and guided him to her bed. They sat on the edge, side by side, her hand still in his, and she rested her head on his large arm. I spent the night thinking about it. This was my home, but my place is with you. If leaving is what you think is best, then we shall leave together. It took Dragatu a moment to reply. He expected to have to justify his choice. Thank you, he said, and turned on the bed to face her. I would be lost without you. I'm going to talk to the Hanora and offer them a new start. I'll tell them we're going to create our own nation and invite all their friends and family. Where are we going? Across the desert, by the spring and reservoir at the foot of the hills. The land there will sustain us, and there's plenty of room to grow. We'll have to take a lot of provisions, and then plant crops and hunt, but we will build a nation that is our own. I will lead in a way that helps the people be the best they can be, the way the Creator wants. Are you sure this is the right choice you want to make? Freta said hesitantly. Yes, I'm sure. It's the best thing for those who want more than the life my brothers offer. Lots of people will be upset, she said, squeezing his hand lovingly. The nation has always been one, like a family. It'll be hard for the people to let us go. I know, Dragatu said, and hung his head. They have made their choice, and I must make mine. Dragatu rubbed his thumb over the back of her hand and looked up into her eyes. Okay, Freta said, we will leave. 6th day of the 8th month, 702nd year. If you do come, you will need to bring all your provisions, animals, and tools, and as soon as we arrive, we will start building our nation, Dragatu said as he stood on top of the steps of the castle with the Hanora gathered before him. We will get materials from the woods in the hills, and make journeys to the ore pits and granite valley for strong materials. It will be hard work, but we don't mind that. He laughed, and others chuckled in agreement. We will build spacious and beautiful houses for our families. If we bring red stones and our jewels, we will array them on our homes, and they will glimmer and shine in the sunlight. We will have large open spaces for our children to play, and water will always flow because we will have the water source right next to us. Anyone who wants to come should meet at the water channels beyond the farms in a week. Dragatu painted a paradise, and Honrus, Rion, Linur, and all the Hanora shouted they would follow him. They left excitedly and went to tell all their friends and family. 9th day of the 8th month, 702nd year. Dragatu hadn't spoken to his brothers since he stormed out. When they heard about what he was planning, they were devastated. Please stay, Dragatu, Finon begged at a meeting he and Eunyalus had asked Dragatu to attend. Think of our family. Won't you stay for that? Eunyalus asked. You have brought this upon yourselves, Dragatu replied, trying to focus and push down the mixture of feelings that had crept in. If you had let me be the main leader, then this wouldn't have happened. But you have a choice, Eunyalus said loudly, his voice wavering with rare emotion. We did not make you do anything. The people voted, and the majority of them want all of us to lead together. The Creator wants us to work together. That was never made clear, Dragatu said. It's all choice, remember. We tried what we thought was best, but it isn't working. People need someone to make the tough choices, and it should be me. Eunyalus sighed, almost giving up. I disagree, he said. If you had accepted the three of us leading, the greatest good would have been accomplished. The people would have chosen the right path in their own time, but your lack of understanding has created so many problems. Dragatu was losing patience, and it burned away the unexpected feelings of guilt and love. What do the people know about choice? He asked harshly. They don't even know what they want. I was offering leadership, yet they follow you blindly. I've given those who want a better life a choice. Unias went quiet again. Finon struggled to speak as silent tears ran down his cheeks, but he managed to make his plea. What about us? We are your family. We love you. We want you here. Remember when we wrote the letter for Freta? The three of us had fun working together. It could be like that again. The words hurt Dragati, and for a fraction of a second he doubted, but it vanished in a blink. His mind was made up. He squeezed both his hands tightly, deciding to be completely honest. It's not enough. We were young then, and the responsibility we had was small. Things will never be that way again. I've tried, but I have to do what I believe is right. There was a pause as the impact of what he said hit home. Unias took a deep breath and tried again. Finon is right. Family is the most important thing. The loss of our father should have taught you that we needed to stick together. When we lose a family member, it hurts. I can't apologize for my choice and for doing what I feel is right. The people that are following me need my leadership. I will not let them down. Unias tried one last thing. My wife is pregnant, Dragati. Dragati gave a weak smile. I'm truly happy for you, brother, but that will not change my mind. Dragati had done what he came to do and stood up to leave. He gave him a last look, and his eyes stung as he released some of the burdened emotions. Goodbye, my brothers, he said lovingly, and walked out. As the door began to close, Dragati heard the fading sound of Unias sighing heavily and Finon's silent tears transcending into sobs. He didn't look back. 12th day of the 8th month, 702nd year. Dragati had packed all that he would need and went to say the hardest goodbye of them all. He knocked on the door and heard a voice calling through sobs. Come in, Helana uttered hoarsely. He entered, and from a chair his mother looked up, tears running down her face. The sadness changed to a brief flash of anger, and then back to sadness. Why? She said. Dragati felt a pang of guilt and regret, but did his best to explain how he felt and why he had to leave. Will you come with me? He asked when he had finished. She looked at him for a few seconds and then shook her head. I cannot. This is my home. I am old and want to spend my last days here. Dragati realized this was probably the last time he would see her. She knew it too, and began to cry again, sobs shaking her frail frame. Dragati wanted to say so much, but could only find a few words. I'm sorry for not keeping my promises to father. I have failed to protect you, Unias and Finon. Helana stood and hugged him tighter than he thought a woman of her age could. I love you, she said with a muffled voice. I'm proud of you. I wish you didn't have to go, but I understand. Dragati could not have heard words more important to him. I love you, mother, he whispered. I will miss you. She let him go. Dragati turned quickly and walked out of the room. The tears he had been holding back tumbled down his face. He returned to his room at the castle and spent the last night with Freta, but he barely slept. As morning sunlight crept through the windows, he was already awake and preparing for the long journey. 13th day of the 8th month, 702nd year. By the time Dragati reached the meeting place, he had focused. His sadness and regret were dead. Only excitement lived. He went over and over how he could now be the leader he was born to be. He had his gifts, his strength, and he had Freta by his side. The sun reached its apex, and Dragati surveyed the people from the top of a cart. He gasped at the sea of heads that couldn't be counted. He took a guess. There had to be about 30 or 40,000 people. He had not expected so many. Most of them were from the rich people and Orpits, but this was good. These are the people most loyal to me, he thought. They were his people now. The magnitude of the responsibility didn't scare him. If anything, he reveled in it. Before they all set off, he climbed a tree to take one last look at the nation. He saw people in the streets near the fields crying and begging people not to leave. Looking to the castle, he saw the banner with his symbol being taken down, while his brother's banners still flapped in the wind. He felt anger, but let it go. I have to look to the future. I must accept this new life. A life so much better for all these people. A life where I can make the Creator happy by being a strong leader. With these final thoughts, he climbed down. One last thought left his mind before his feet touched the ground. If I never see you again, goodbye, my brothers.